In September 1987, 16 Livesay cousins of the Livesay Historical Association or Society left Chicago, Illinois, nonstop for Manchester, England, and a visit with our English cousins over there. And we hope we can, through the tapes, have you enjoy visiting some of our Livesay cousins. And so here we taxi out in a Boeing 767 for our nonstop flight from Chicago to Manchester, England. And we noticed on the roads there, they drove on the wrong side. Yes, here they're on the left side. We drive on the right. Surprisingly, much of the countryside looked very similar to the area in Virginia where Thomas Lincoln came sometime around 1756 or 7 to 1763. Sheep grazing on the rolling mountainsides. And then here we found where one of the farmers was with a modern tractor operating in the hay field, raking the hay. And then we arrive at the home of George Ray. George Ray lives where the old Livesay Hall used to stand before it was demolished and made way for modern housing sometime back a few years ago, back in somewhere in the early 1970s. And here LaFell Livesay meets Richard Livesay. And Richard is one of our cousins in England. He's 80 years old here in 1987. And there's Dot Stapleton, you just saw Luther. There's Virginia Smith. And this is George Ray telling him about this area back in the old Livesay Hall, stood right here where his home now stands.
Everybody gets together, we'll go in.
Arrived in Blackburn, England, in Lancashire, and it's a pleasure to be here where the old Livesay Hall once stood. Is that right, Mr. George Ray? It's nice of you to be host to us here.
It is. This house that we live in is part of the site, and the house next door is also on the same site. And under that house is the old cellar from the hall. But of course you can't get to it now because the foundations are there.
It occupied then enough space for both of these houses?
Oh yes, both of these houses. And it was in the shape of an E, which in the Elizabethan days were popular as far as the large houses that landowners built.
Mr. Ray, have you lived here all your life?
No, I've lived here I've lived here 25 years, and in this house I've lived 19.
So you remember the old Livesay Hall when it stood here then?
I remember it, yes. This was an open field here, and I used to live on the other side of the main road before this house was built. And I used to bring my children into the field here to play, and in the corner over there was an ice hole, which was shaped like an igloo, built of stone, then covered with grass with an opening in, and it was hollow, and the kids used to go and play hide and seek in there.
And they enjoyed that.
But the family here used it as an ice hole to keep meat and so on fresh in the summertime. It was a lot colder underground of course.
Are there many Livesays still living around in this area?
Oh yes, quite a number. You'll meet some of them today.
In fact, I understand there's a gentleman out there we're going to meet pretty soon. It's a Livesay, isn't he?
Yeah, Dick Livesay.
Dick Livesay?
Yes.
And he lives near here?
That's right, yeah. Well, he lives at Preston.
At Preston. We came through there a while ago.
Yeah, that's right. And he came 2 or 3 months ago when I was working in the garden and spoke to him there. And as a result, this is why you're here today, I think.
Sure. Well, we're glad he came out. I see another gentleman there is not in our group. Who is he?
Oh, that's Mr. Tarbuck. He was the mayor about 4 years ago, mayor of Blackburn.
Oh, I see.
And you'll see a card with a painting on it of Livesay Old Hall, which an old man did.
Oh, yes.
And he has the original in his house.
Uh-huh.
And when he was mayor, he chose a Christmas card to send, an official Christmas card to send out to people, and it was a miniature of the original painting. You'll see it when you go inside.
Is that right, of the original Livesay Old House?
Yeah, it's the original painting.
Well, that's very interesting. We do not have documented just when our ancestor of about 250 years ago came over. We were trying to locate the ship manifest and find out exactly when he came over. We haven't found, and we think possibly he left from Liverpool. And we've searched books and still searching. We hope we find it someday.
Yeah, I hope you do, but it'll be quite difficult. Some of them, I think, have been destroyed now. So
I guess,
ones, yeah.
But you see, when you get back 250 years, it gets very difficult.
That's right.
To find the records.
Yeah, because the documentation wasn't what it is today, of course.
That's right. We know that he was over there at the time of the Revolutionary War. He'd been there a while. And he'd come into Virginia. He died in 1797. His son George fought in the Revolutionary War and on a couple of campaigns, and I descend from him. And I'm about the 6th generation from George. Yes. So it's quite a ways down the line. We are quite impressed with the look of your terrain here and the countryside, because it's very similar to where the two in Virginia and on down into East Tennessee of our country.
That's right. Yeah, we've toured down there actually, my wife and I, with friends. Yeah, and we found it so. You could think you're in the English countryside when you go through Virginia, particularly.
And we're beginning to comprehend maybe why they wanted to come to that section. It looks so much like home back in England.
That's right. Yes, yes, of course.
What is your occupation, sir?
Well, I'm a retired detective sergeant.
Detective what?
Detective sergeant, but retired. I'm retired now. Yeah.
You were with the local
the county police. Yeah. Lancashire County Police. My wife's a retired teacher. In fact, she only retired 2 months ago.
I see. Well, that's fine. I got up in years, and I just had open heart surgery back in April of this year, and
successful.
So I'm getting along very good, and it almost retired me. But we're mighty glad and want to express our appreciation to you for opening your home here and extending your hospitality so wonderfully. We appreciate it very much.
Welcome. We've had George Livesay stay with us a couple of times.
Yes, Dr. George.
Yeah, and we've been over to stay with him originally when he was in La Mesa in California, and then, of course, in Lynchburg.
Oh, you knew him over there?
Yeah.
I see.
We went to stay with him there.
He's at Lynchburg now.
No, he's at Lynchburg, yeah.
Yeah.
And we visited him there, and he was very good to us as well. When he first came, we arranged radio, newspaper interviews and so on for him. He probably told you all this.
Yes, he told it at the very next meeting.
Did he?
We have an annual meeting, he probably told you, and we get together just
That's
like
right.
our people will see this is what we're making right now, whenever we meet next July.
Yeah.
So it makes it interesting, and it makes it possible for us to share some of this.
Apparently my wife's letters have been read out at your meetings, they tell me.
You what?
My wife's letters, some of them have been read out at
That's
your
right,
meeting. Yeah.
And we appreciate it very much.
She was most surprised.
So I see Dick over there is being interviewed by a lady about something, discussed on something. Now, Dick Livesay is retired, is he?
Yes. Well, I don't know him all that well. He called one day about 2 months ago, and that was the first meeting until today.
I see. Well, let's get him over here and talk to him about this occasion. Dick Livesay, come on over here. I'm Ray Livesay, and about 250 years ago, one of my ancestors left here and came over to our country and blazed the trails over there because he was an old-timer. And I guess he got over there somewhere around 1750 because his son George fought in the Revolutionary War a few years later. So he'd had to been there somewhere in the 1750s. Well, listen, we're mighty appreciative of you coming out and visiting with some of your cousins.
Don't worry. It's a pleasure, really.
I see.
Great similarity between the two of you.
Ah, well.
Yeah, I could see the profile there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, the genes maybe show up, don't they?
Well,
Come in.
I can go back hundreds of years here.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. 8.
You have you done quite a bit of research on your family here?
Quite a lot.
How far back have you gone
Well,
on the research of the
I've
family?
attached it to this family in the 1600s.
1600.
Not direct, but to a branch of it who lived in Fenniscoles. We're going to visit where we lived, not where I lived, but the house where this family lived. We're going to visit there
Oh, wonderful.
while we're here.
Great.
And, while you're here. Anyway, we're related to them and they're related to the Livesays who were here, so that's how I'm connected with them.
I see.
You see? And, well, I can go right back to that old family here, and you know they go back to 1214 about. The earliest I've come across of a Livesay is William Livesay, and his name before he changed it to Livesay was DeBury.
Was DeBury?
Yes, D-B-U-R-I.
D-E-B-U-R-I.
Yes, D separate, Bury.
Oh, D and then B-U-R-I.
And they were the lords of the place then. And he liked it so much he changed his name to the place to Livesay. And if you look at, I suppose you have a chart of the family tree.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to about 1220. They've misput in the William on.
Well, we stopped over first in England and talked to Bell, John Bell.
Oh, yeah.
And his father there, I believe, Henry, and they had a chart that showed where somebody, a Stewart, had changed their name back to Livesay in order to inherit something or something like that.
Now, I'd like to go along with one or two of you or more one time when we're travelling around in a few days to another Livesay house, which is never mentioned.
Is that right?
Yes, there was a Thomas Livesay who lived in Blackburn and did well in
Thomas Livesay.
Connected to this place, yes. I've given you his history to take back with you.
Do you have the history on him?
Yes.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Well, you have a lot of these things I'm going to let you have, you see.
Good.
I have a bag full. And I'll have to get down and talk to somebody to explain some of it, you see.
Good, I'll be glad to do that.
You know, I thought Jim would have been here.
Well, Jim's wife, Mary Lee, had inner ear disturbance trouble, and she's ill and couldn't come.
Well, that's rotten, isn't it?
And we were so disappointed that Jim couldn't come. I've worked closely with Jim on this family work, and I will relay it all to him and take it to him.
This man I'm speaking of, he was quite well to do, you know, and he started he was in the cotton trade.
Yeah, in the cotton trade.
Cloth. And he started a mill in Walton Dale, that's between here and Preston, called Mosney, the place.
I see.
And he lived at the top of a lane called Knott Lane, at Knott House.
I see.
And died there in 1790. Perhaps it would be of interest for him to take a photograph of that
And
house.
you say his name was Thomas?
Yes.
Well, you see those names run in the family, and it could be that he was pretty directly related to our Thomas, if we just find that where Thomas came from and
Yes.
and at what time and all that.
Well, now, I can give you quite a little dossier on him.
Good. Well,
finished.
I've got some
I'm
things.
finished with him yet, you know.
Yes. I have some things that I brought with me that I'll share with you, too.
Very good.
About Jonathan and Gilbert Livesay, who operated a couple of ships over to America and back. Did you know about them, I'm sure?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Well, we've found that in our research, and that dates back to the early 1600s. Way back, yeah. Well, it's going to be a great pleasure to work here with you and share these common interests and the genealogy that you've been able to find by being here, where we can't be very often, and learn all that you've learned. If you share with us, we sure will appreciate it.
If I could tell you a little short story. living at this very place in 1464, you see, was a John Livesay, and he took part in the Wars of the Roses.
Oh, yes.
That's when the Yorkshire White Rose lot were claiming the throne, Edward IV, and the king was already Henry VI of Lancaster. And they used to battle it out, see, until they got King Henry cornered just up the road here.
Yeah.
Oh, aye. And having his dinner at a private house.
They got him cornered in a private house.
The White Rose lot. And Henry was pretty tricky. He dodged them. And he crossed the River Ribble on some stones, which are there yet.
Oh, no.
And went into a wood. And was caught by the Talbot brothers, and they took him to London on the back of a donkey or a horse or something, with his legs tied to the stirrups so they couldn't get off, and a crown of straw on his head. And this, I think, John Livesay took part in that. Although he's not mentioned in the book, he is in the chart of the... he got £20 for the capture of King Henry it calls him 5th in the chart, it's a mistake.
King Henry V.
No, it isn't, that's not correct, it's King Henry VI.
The 6th, I see.
The chart's wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting, I know.
But I've got that life story of Henry for you to take back.
That's
with
wonderful.
That incident in it, you see.
Oh, listen, that'll just make our trip worthwhile.
Well, there are others beside that. I can keep going.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and you spell your last name Livesay, don't you?
Yes.
Well, somewhere over in America they got it over to Livesay, and that's the way they spell mine.
Well, they used to talk that different than we do now, you see.
Yeah.
For instance, we'll be going to Withnell.
Sure.
Well, it's spelt in some of the old things you look at as Winnell.
I see.
Winnel.
Oh, yes.
Where do you live? Winnell. And that's how they got saying it different, and those who could write would write it as they spoke.
I see. Well, you're Mr. David Livesay.
Dick.
Huh?
Dick. Richard.
Dick Livesay. Mr. Richard Livesay, and that's a name that's been in the family a long time, too.
Oh, my goodness, well, my grandfather's name was Dick.
Yeah.
And he, now then, his father was Anthony Lawrence, and he was born at Wickenhouse Farm, which we're going to visit.
Yes.
And his father's name was Dick Livesay. He died in 1846.
I see.
And he was born in 1762.
Yeah.
And they've lived there. They were living there when Henry VIII was on the throne.
Well, how old are you, Richard?
80.
You're 80.
Oh, aye.
Well, you've got a few years on me then.
Well, there you are.
I'm only 71. Well, this is a real pleasure. We'll talk more and learn more.
Well, aye,
thank you so much for
sharing. Don't get me going.
with
I've got to keep you full night.
You bet.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're all staying close together.
That's good. Yeah.
Stand here. Well, I think.
There you are.
What's this?
The REC gone?
No.
A-R-B-E-C-K, yes.
And I understand you're a former mayor of Blackburn.
No, he is the former mayor.
You're
of
the
Blackburn.
former mayor.
He's going to be the mayor of Chorley next year.
Next year. Oh, of Charlie. Great.
And I was mayor 4 years ago, and the first visitors I had at the town hall was Dr. Livesay from Virginia.
Dr. George Livesay.
That's right.
That's right. We know him real well.
Do you?
Sure.
Well, if you see him, give him my kind regards.
We most
He's
certainly
in
will.
my book. He's
Fine.
in my book there,
Fine.
his wife, and Mr. and Mrs. Ray brought them to the town hall, you see.
Now, you were the mayor of Blackburn in
Yes.
what years?
83, 84.
And what is your vocation?
I was a schoolmaster.
A schoolmaster.
Yes,
Wonderful.
here in Blackburn. Before that, I was in Liverpool, and I came here in 50.
My wife was a school teacher years ago.
And his wife was on my staff when I came.
Hi, that's
I wonder
great.
about
And
coincidence.
she was taught herself at the school, wasn't she?
She was indeed.
Oh, that's
She's an old girl of the school.
That
Long
is
before my time, of course.
Is this Mrs. Starbuck?
Mrs. Livesay.
Oh, Mrs. Livesay. Oh, you're Richard's.
No, this.
Oh, you're this gentleman's
Yeah.
wife. I see. Well, you know, we drove in here and we got to get acquainted.
Yeah.
And your first name is what?
John.
John Livesay.
John Livesay, yes. And of course, we were both born in Blackburn.
Yeah, that's right.
And when we were married, we lived just over there.
On the main road.
You live neighbours then?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, and of course, all these were green fields.
Yeah.
I see.
And Livesay Old Hall was, what, within 100 yards of where
That's
we
right.
lived, virtually.
Well, you know, we told our group, and when we had the meeting first week in August, that we were coming over and that we would share everything we did. And that's why we are making this videotape. And then next year, when we meet in July, we're meeting a little earlier in '88, we'll be able to share with them these comments that we just make and are making here. And we appreciate this opportunity to visit the area from where our ancestor came, Thomas Livesay, back somewhere around the mid-1700s.
Yeah.
And he came to Virginia, which is a very similar area to this, in terrain, the hills and the mountains and so on. And we have visited just in July. I went to Franklin County, Virginia, and to Rocky Mount was the name of the little town, the county seat. My wife and I, and we spent a few days there visiting the area in which he came to. And it's so interesting to come here now and to see the area from whence he came, because it gives me some idea of why he landed over there in that particular area.
Yeah.
I think he felt like he was at home.
Yes.
The terrain was similar.
That's right. So we welcome this opportunity to have you folks be speaking before our group whenever they get together next year, because many of them were busy and couldn't
Now,
come.
why don't you invite us over to come and...
Well, why don't you come over? We want you to. That would be the greatest thing in the world.
He'll be too busy.
We've never been.
Well, you're retired now, aren't you retired?
Oh, I've been retired nearly 10 years, yeah.
You've traced your family then back to Blackburn, have you?
We've traced this Thomas,
Yes.
and we can't document when he came over and the date of his birth and so on. That's what we're trying to document.
I see.
Because
Was he from this area, though?
that is
Because
that
you'd
is
be
our
able to
understanding.
trace from the birth, from baptismal.
Well, that's what we were trying to do.
Now, well, all that information
did it go
is...
back?
All that
Did
information...
George work on that
is-
one?
This fellow's a county council, you see.
Oh, great.
And we have an activist
That's right.
museum.
Yeah.
Everything is now, county records are all concentrated in Preston now, at County Hall. And they have all the documentation that you would want.
Yeah. So I can delve into that for you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll sure want to spend some time there.
You see, we have
Okay.
family name, like
Sure.
my name, Tarbuck.
Yeah.
Everybody thought I was a Czech or a Pole or something. When but it's Merseyside, Liverpool, that is a
Sure.
Tarbuck village, you
Yeah.
see. And this, I don't know whether you know this, Turton Hall, have you been to Turton Hall?
Now, yeah, we just arrived here.
Well, Turton Hall was the home of a branch of the Tarbucks way back in the 14th century. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I believe George Ray wants us to come in now. And
Does he
The
now?
Livesay,
Can I
it
just
was
show you that?
a lordship, 100 and something, and a branch of them built Pleasington Old Hall,
Well, which is over
which
there.
was over there, which is still standing.
No, it's not.
Is it not? Is
No,
it down
they pulled
now?
it down when they built the cemetery.
And there used to be names on Fenniscole's de Livesay
yes,
and dates on, but this was the sort of manor,
I
the
see.
Lord Livesay,
Yeah.
and so it's all
Well,
from
we're
there.
wanting to learn all we can about it while we're here the next few days.
Yes.
And thank you, Mr. As we'll share this with us.
Didn't we come out of the Joseph line? Oh.
And now we're talking again to Richard Livesay, Dick Livesay, of Preston, England, 80 years of age, that we were talking to out in the yard a moment ago. And now we're inside the house listening to him talk about some of the historical significance of the Livesays in Lancashire County, England.
The church at Chorley.
St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence, yeah. Parish church at Chorley. Now, when Miles Standish was born, or just after, 1584, something like that, I think it was, and there was some bother going on with the clergy and what to us. I've also got his life, which I'm going to lay out. You can take copies of it when you get back. But I fished this out yesterday. This is the page out of the parish register with the birth missing. See, there's a blank spot here. And this will also tell you something else peculiar to looking in old documents, perhaps you're not all familiar with. The year ended in March, towards the end of March, and started. And here you can see it happening, because 1584, February, and then 1584, 5, starts. 1585. Pass that round. Take that with you, though. Somebody look after it, wouldn't you?
Now that we're going to try to get oriented here by looking on the map, you'll see there's London, England. That's Great Britain, a map. And over to the left, you see the island of Ireland. He's pointing now at the Blackburn, Preston area where we landed at Manchester, just south of there, about 40 miles. And this was an opportunity for us to show you just whereabouts in Great Britain the Livesays came from when they came to America back in the mid-1700s. And of course, we went on up towards Scotland, up to Edinburgh there, where we're pointing at this time, and then down through the beautiful lake country and the rolling hills and mountains, on down to Preston and back into the Blackburn area of Lancashire County, where we enjoyed so much visiting with our Livesay cousins in England. It was a real opportunity, which we appreciated no end. And now then, you're looking here at the Liverpool area there, where the bay goes in from the Irish Sea, and then there is Manchester, then up there is Blackburn, where we're pointing right now. Preston is right there. That's Preston, the county seat of Lancashire County, and it was there that we found the archives that we were searching for to get the information we needed. That's Preston right there. This is Liverpool. And so that is the area, the haunts of the Livesays in England back in the 1700s, when just before Thomas left and came to America. Right in the center of the map is Blackburn, England. You can barely make it out. The city at the lower part there is Manchester. There's Preston. There's Blackburn. And right in there are the townships of Lancashire County, where the Livesays lived and still live in quite some numbers in the Blackburn. So this gives you some idea of just where we are and where we came from in England. This is a detailed map of the Blackburn township area. You see Pleasington over there to the left of Blackburn. It's kind of southwest, really. And that's where Thomas Livesay came from. Thomas and Margaret Livesay of Pleasington. Her maiden name we find was Stones. And then Livesay, you see down in the lower left-hand part of your screen. That's Livesay Township. And Livesay Road then goes right on up in toward Blackburn. Here is a map in much greater detail, and you'll see down in the lower left we have a circle around where the old Livesay Hall was once located, And that's the area in which George Ray lives now, and several other houses have been developed there. And then you will notice the cherry tree there in the lower center is the name of the area. And then there's Livesay Branch Road, which we had the pleasure of driving over. There you can see Livesay in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. Livesay Branch Road. And what a thrill it was for the 16 of us in the bus to be able to drive down Livesay Branch Road and see the Livesay Post Office and a business or two named Livesay. And then we have the pleasure of going out to visit with Thomas Livesay, Tom Livesay, his son, and his wife Elsie. His son's name is Tom also. And this is a picture of the old Wiccan house, which was about 1,100 years old when this picture was taken. However, now it is completely tumbled down and just some of the stone walls are still standing 4 or 5 feet high. They hauled us out there on a wire very much this opportunity, and we'll see that later. But this is the mayor of Blackburn, England, and she's a charming person.
When we come to have our meetings, the seats at the back are for general members of the public. Any member of the public can come in and listen to us on meeting, but they're not allowed to speak. So you may have somebody who's brought a petition to the council about a planning application. You don't want that particular planning thing that's near their house, their home, and a member of the group may be moving it, and we want to go forward with this planning application, and they may get very angry at the back of the room. Whatever the councillors are saying, they're not allowed to speak. If they speak, I've got to ask them to remain seated, and if they continue to do that, I've got to nod across to my officer who sits at the back, who nips sharpish either round the corner to the police station or telephones to bring them in and ask them to leave the council chamber, because you couldn't have a disruptive council chamber when you're trying to get on. I always say I would hate to be a member of the public at the back of there. I think I would be one that would be escorted out. Because sometimes some of the councillors do say things that get members very angry. I think it's very difficult. When we come to, up there of course we've got the public gallery again, but we only use that if people get very full at the back there. That's sort of always filled. On the day when we have the mayor making ceremony, that's when the new mayor is installed. We have a new mayor every year. I've served from last May until next May, and then there will be a new mayor again. The population in Darwin, and the total population for the whole borough, Blackburn and Darwin, is 146,000, and that's represented here by this large maze here. When we come to the badges, this used to be the badge and the coat of arms for the small borough of Darwin, but Darwin, as I've explained, has been amalgamated with the Blackburn borough, and now we have this particular coat of arms here, which is displayed up on the wall there. I'll tell you about the coat of arms as well, if you like. We start with the dove at the top there. You can see
Only this way. Right. We're all looking cheerful. It's not raining. Yes, that's good.
And here we, of course, have moved outside the building and moving on around to see another room. There you see the old Livesay Hall hanging in a room, and over to my right is a picture of Margaret Thatcher. How interesting. And this is the City Hall in which we saw the room and visited with the Mayor Sylvia Little, L-I-D-D-L-E. The City Hall in Blackburn, England. I wondered why she paid so much attention to we visiting Livesay's. And come to find out, there's about a list of some 300 lives in the Blackburn telephone directory, and apparently it's good political business to curry favor with the voters and with the Livesay's, since there's so many of them in Blackburn, England. How about that? That's politics. Well, this is the new Wicken House. We told you about the old Wicken House, the one that's tumbled down now. But interestingly enough, I says to Tom, Tom, how old is your new Wicken House? After he told me the old Wicken House was about 1,100 years old. Tom said, oh, well, it's about 300 years old. So over there, they take great store in how old a home is where they live. And you can see it's made of stone and will no doubt also stand for 1,100 years. And this is a scene looking into Blackburn. In towards Blackburn, just a short distance, hardly get in the video, but there we could see some of the buildings in downtown Blackburn, England, from Tom Livesay's farm. And then we get aboard the hayride. He had some bales of hay on the wagon hitched to a tractor. And so we all board the vehicle, Tom, on the farm home of Tom Livesay, and head out. Like Thomas Livesay, another Thomas of many years ago, left England and came to America to start a new home, a new way of life, settling on a farm, perhaps down in Franklin County, Virginia, where he lived for many years and died in 1797. We're grateful to Tom and his wife, son Tom, for the hospitality they extended the Livesay tour group that was there in September 1987. Distance, you can see some of the cattle. This is sort of a dairy farm. I went back to the barns, looked at some of the dairy equipment that they use for supplying milk to the cities in this area and to the people who live and reside here. As you know, we met the lady that's the mayor of Blackburn, and she tells us there's almost 150,000 people that lives in Blackburn. So now let's talk to Tom about his farm and about his family.
Yeah, okay, the figures are changing.
Is it running?
Yeah.
Okay, folks, it's mighty good to be the guest of one Tom Livesay. And your address here is Blackburn?
No, Whitnall.
Whitnall?
Whitnall, near Chorley.
Near Chorley, just north of Chorley.
That's right.
And how long have you lived here, Cousin Tom?
Well, I was born here.
You were born here?
Yeah.
Your grandfather moved here?
My father and my grandfather and my grandmothers I know. My great-grandmother lived here.
How far back have you traced your ancestors?
Well, about 400 or 500 years. 500 years, I would think.
500 years?
Yeah.
Well, we've been only able to chase ours back about 250 over in America.
Yeah.
And we can't find out whenever your namesake Tom, or you're his namesake, because he must have been born about 1745 or somewhere in there.
That's right.
And he came to America there and was in America before the Revolutionary War. In fact, his fifth son, George, served in the Revolutionary War.
Did he?
And that's been many, many years ago.
That's a long time ago.
And, of course, there's still a lot of Livesays around in this area.
That's right. Well, it was a very big family of Livesays, it was this.
Mm-hmm. How long has this farm here been in the family of Livesay?
The Wicken House? Oh, now then. What? Oh, it'll be 600 or 700 years at least.
600 or 700
Yes, it will be.
Isn't that great?
It seems a long time, but that'll be near the mark.
Well, I see your son Tom, 34 years of age, is here with you on the farm,
Yeah, he is.
And he'll probably carry on.
I hope so.
That's right.
Yeah.
How many children do you have?
I have 3 kiddies.
Tom is the only son.
Tom's the only son and 2 daughters.
And where are the daughters?
Brenda and Anne. Anne's Dr. Jones now.
Oh, she has her doctorate.
Yeah, she's Dr. Jones.
I know you're proud of her.
Yes, proud of them all.
You bet.
Yeah, of course I am.
Do you have any grandchildren?
5 grandchildren.
Oh,
not a lot.
Wonderful.
No.
Do they come see you often?
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
We'd hope that maybe you and your lovely wife someday could come and visit us in America and attend one of our Livesay reunions over there.
Well, that I would like to do.
And we have a nice get-together, 150 or so of us, and we just have a big time.
I would like that.
And see our country here. Have you ever been over there?
Never been to America.
Yeah. Well, I made it to England 25 years ago, and I'm back here now. And
well, that's grand. I hope you're back in another 25.
Well, I hope I am too.
Of course, without a doubt.
I'll be up in years.
Yeah. That doesn't matter, does it?
That's right. Now, what kind of a farm? You have a dairy farm here.
It's dairy and poultry.
How many acres?
104 acres.
140.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you pasture how many cattle here?
Well, I have about 145 altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In other words, it takes about an acre per cow, huh?
Yeah, we do. We have some land that we let beside. You see, 12 acres.
Oh yeah.
Beside that.
And then you milk the cows and sell the milk products, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we sell the milk.
Well, Tom, speaking in behalf of our Livesay cousins in America and our 16 of us that came on this trip, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
You're really welcome. And I hope you make it again sometime.
Well, we hope so, too, and we hope that you make it over to America.
And I'll do that.
And attend one of our reunions.
That would be very nice.
And see about 150 more of your cousins.
I would enjoy that. I would enjoy that.
Well, thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Isn't it good to talk to Tom Livesay of right over here in Lancashire, England?
That's and I hope we are relations. I think we are, you know.
Well, I'm sure we are.
I'm confident.
I am too, yeah. Thank you very much. What?
asking ghost story.
Say,
Oh, the
I
ghost story.
understand that I missed a ghost story. Would you tell that to our audience and they'll...
It's a bit long.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, about 12 years ago, I was coming down from the village. I'd been to church, and I saw a man digging in the field. And I stopped the car, and my blood was coming up a bit. Climbed over the wall, and there was no one there. Well, about 4 years after that, a lad that worked here, and he was going home on his bicycle, and he saw this man digging in a field. And I hadn't told anyone. And then I started to think, well, last winter, the neighbour higher up, he came down just after breakfast and he said, Tom, he says, I've seen a man digging in the field. And he says, there's nobody there. So I don't know what it is. So there must be a ghost.
A ghost?
A ghost, aye. And it'll be a Livesay, I think.
It'll probably be a Livesay.
Probably be a Livesay.
You suppose that could be old Tom, that
I don't
ghost
know.
from America?
Well, there's been a lot of Toms.
That's right.
My granddad were Tom.
And it could be that Tom's come back as a ghost.
There's been a lot of Toms.
Well, we'll have our historian, Jackson Jim Livesay from Jackson, Mississippi, to try to figure that one out.
That's right. Well, there was a Tom Livesay went to France with Tom D'Orton.
Oh, I see.
In the Reformation.
Yeah.
We've lost him.
Well, thank you very much for telling us the ghost story.
It's been grand.
Isn't that a good one?
Yeah.
And now let's get on the hayride and head out across the fields, rather muddy.
Hey, I want to see you.
Getting some pictures here of the family.
That's Tom Livesay, the son, 34-year-old son of Thomas.
Yeah, that's Thomas in the blue coveralls on our right, as you see in this still picture.
Hi, Thomas. Stop right there. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
It's good to be with you. I had a nice visit with your dad.
Good. Yeah.
Yes. I guess you're the next generation to take over this farm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
It was good to visit with you, Tom.
Good.
And we appreciate your hospitality here.
Welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Always welcome in Lancashire.
And here you see some of the cattle close up on the Thomas Livesay farm near Blackburn, England. And the dog, which was a part of the farm operation. And there are the standing walls of the old Wicken house, which earlier in the videotape we showed you with the label of the old Wicken house. Some 1,100 years ago, it was a new house. Some of the stone walls you see are still standing, marking the spot where the old Wicken house stood, quite a ways from the new Wicken house, which is 300 years old, but they still call it Wicken house. And in the distance from the old Wicken house site, you can see the city of Blackburn. What an opportunity it was to stand on these grounds where the Livesays were there for so many, many years. And there are many stone fences on the farms, as well as a few wire fences. But this fence is probably almost as old as the old Wicken house. Tom has no sheep on his farm, but the neighboring farm does. And there was the black sheep.
Yeah. I want to move
This,
it close up.
this is Richard.
This is Ann Livesay Toman, the daughter of Richard Livesay, who have been most hospitable to us and have been most helpful in our research here in England, in the Blackburn and the Preston area.
Houghton Tower, where the Houghton family lived, and there were intermarriages between the Houghtons and the Livesays hundreds of years ago. And this Houghton Tower in England back in 1587 was rather new then. It still stands, and it's quite difficult for the Houghton descendants to maintain this huge facility and pay the taxes on it, as is the situation with many of the castles. This was a large castle. They call it Houghton Tower. And Tom Livesay said his daughter, the Houghtons, they're good friends, not too far from where the Thomas Livesay farm. And it was here that his daughter, when she got married, held the reception. The Houghton family hosted it. And you can imagine what this must have been like back in the late 1500s and 1600s. And this is from a print that we purchased while there. And this is where we settle down in the archives, and now you're looking at the book that's over 250 years old, in which I read the name of Margaret Stone's her marriage on the 21st of May, 1749, to our Thomas Livesay of Preston, of Pleasanton, rather, township. And that's Anne, there's Luther, and there's Richard Livesay, our English cousin. Anne is the daughter of Richard, and she works for the English IRS, like the Internal Revenue Service. And here are members of our party, Adele from and Crone, and there's Betty McCarthy from Pennsylvania, all working, doing research to try to learn and document various dates. And then after we left there, we went down Livesay Branch Road, and we thought you would enjoy some of the scenes along Livesay Branch Road.
come to the close of a very, very wonderful tour of the Lincoln heritage in England. And when we say we come to the close of a very happy tour, I think it's been just that. It's also been a meaningful tour. And I'd like to get the impressions of those who have been on the tour, Livesay Heritage Tour, arranged by the Livesay Historical Society and directed by Dorothy Holt of Dallas, Texas, and arranged by the touring agency, and we've had a wonderful trip. We'd like to ask our Vice President of LHS and his wife their impressions of this wonderful trip to England and how they feel about it. Vice President Luther Stapleton from Kingsport, Tennessee.
Ray, we certainly agree with you. It's been a wonderful trip. We've had a great time. We've always enjoyed the British Isles, and this was no different from the others. We had a great time. The people are wonderful, and our Livesay cousins proved that over and over again. They were really great.
Most of them, of course, they have seen them on this videotape, and they're just charming people, aren't they, Luther?
They certainly are. They're just couldn't have done more for us than they did.
How did you enjoy the research over at Preston?
Oh, you're really getting into the meat of things now, because that was just wonderful. We just hardly got started with that, and even the first day we were uncovering things.
That's right, and of course everyone has read the bulletin, and by now will know that we found out information about our first Thomas that came to America. We're zeroing in on when he came, and we'll get that exact date some of these days. And on this trip, we found the name of Margaret. It's Stones, S-T-O-N-E-S.
Right.
And we found that they were married on the 21st day of May, 1749. So we're making progress.
We're making good progress.
You bet we are.
And there's a lot to go, and I hope some of the others will get over here right quick and start on it.
And keep working at it. And we even have promises from some of our Livesay cousins over here that they will be working at it and helping us.
Right.
We need all the help we can get.
We have a real good source in Ann and her father, Dick, who know that place upside down, I think, and inside out, and are willing to help any way we ask, I'm sure.
I saw more about Livesay's and really professional research there than I've seen anywhere in our country, and I certainly welcome that opportunity. I know you did too. Say, how about Dot? Has she enjoyed the trip?
This, even though we have been to England several times before, this was a very special trip. Even though I'm a Livesay by choice, I've really been made to feel like I'm a real Livesay from Tom and Dick and all the ones here in England.
They make us proud of our roots, doesn't
They certainly do.
Well, thank you, Luther and Dot Stapleton from Kingsport, Tennessee, and Vice President of LHS, for your comments on this occasion. Thank you very much. We are happy to get the comments of another couple which has been on this tour of England, Great Britain. They are Bart and Ruth Munsey from the great state of Tennessee, from Kingsport, Tennessee also. Ruth, what are your impressions of this trip to England?
Well, it's real hard to say. I cannot get over the hospitality of the Livesays. That's a real...
Dick Livesay is 80 years old. His daughter Ann and her husband Peter and their daughter Susan. Aren't they wonderful people?
Sure.
And then there was Tom and his wife Elsie from the New Wicken farm. My, weren't they wonderful people, and served us a great lunch.
But we've had such a wonderful tour, and the food's been delicious, and our history part has been successful. It's just been a big success.
Well, that's the way we all feel. Bart, how did you enjoy it?
The very way, same way that she did. It's been one of the most wonderful 2 weeks that I've had. Vacation, we accomplished a lot, and so forth, and also the food, association with the memory. So I have to say it was one of the best 2 weeks I've ever had.
In other words, you think there are other good Livesays besides just Ruth, huh?
I think there's plenty of good Livesays. It's
good.
Fine.
Well, that's fine, and we certainly have had an enjoyable trip. And thanks to these Livesays, our cousins here in England that many of us had never met before, their hospitality was so warm and heartfelt that we couldn't help but appreciate it, could we?
Well,
It's been great.
Yeah.
It has really been great.
Yeah. Thank you. We have here with us Adele Sink from Tennessee. It looks like we were talking to all the Tennessee people at first, but that was not by design. Adele, is this your first trip to Great Britain?
Well, no, one other time I was 2 days in London, but I've liked this trip much better because I was anxious to see the countryside. And also I had a lot of misconceptions about the British people.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they ate kidney pie all the time, and I've been surprised to find they have vegetables and fruits plentiful. And it's just been a good trip for me.
And how did you feel about the hospitality of our Livesay cousins over here?
I don't think we could equal it in the United States.
I know, I feel that same way, but we want them to come over. We're going to try, aren't we?
I hope that they will, because that's the surest way for us to get back together.
Now, which way do you spell your name, with an EY or an AY?
With an AY.
With an AY.
Always.
Well, you know, whenever I found in that book that Thomas Livesay was born in 1730, and whenever I found that Margaret's last name was Stones, and we hadn't known that before, and they got married in May of 1749, it was just so wonderful to get this additional information from our research that I'll tell you I was mighty thrilled. It made the trip more than worthwhile in addition to visiting with our Livesay cousins.
Right. Made me more ambitious to work on our side of the family, too.
Yeah.
And I hope next time that Jim and my cousin Sarah Nell will come.
Yes, we're sorry that Jim and Mary Lee from Jackson couldn't make it here.
Right.
Because they would have enjoyed it immensely.
Right.
And we hope that through this tape we will share some of that joy with them, don't we?
Right. Jim was the only one in the group, I think, who knew my father.
Is that right?
And my father was really ambitious for the Livesay Family Association.
Well, we're sorry that he couldn't have come along, but through this we'll share with all of our Livesay cousins back in America that attend the reunion some of the joy that we experienced as we visited with our cousins and learned more information about our Livesay roots.
Look forward to it.
We have here with us Sue Livesay from Rogersville, Tennessee, and looks like we're having everybody from Tennessee to start with here tonight.
I think there are quite a few of us.
Yes, and Tennessee, and we'll have some from Pennsylvania and from Ohio and Illinois. So several states were represented in our group. Sue, I know that you've been Livesay a long time, and what are your impressions of our Livesay roots here in England?
I am very impressed. It has been unbelievable what has been discovered and how it has been discovered, and it is great.
You know, you look at Dick Livesay and Tom Livesay and the other Livesays we've met, and aren't they really genuine Livesays like we have in the United States?
They are. They are very articulate men and women and such delightful people.
You know, the mayor, Madam Mayor of Blackburn, gave us quite a bit of time down at the City Hall for about an hour and then had dinner with us on Friday evening. What were your impressions of the mayor of Blackburn?
She seems to be very well qualified for what she's doing. A beautiful woman.
Isn't she, though?
She is.
It looks to me like that if Margaret Thatcher ever steps aside, she'd be the bigger place, wouldn't she?
Yes, even though she is a liberal.
Well, it was nice of her to devote so much time to the Livesays.
It was indeed.
There are many Livesays here in this Blackburn area in Lancashire County.
And quite a few have called you.
Yes, they have. After that newspaper story came out, I've been on the phone a lot. And it made it possible to meet a lot of the Livesays that we wouldn't have met otherwise.
The young man who came here before dinner?
Yes, came by Friday before we went out to dinner. It was a typical example. He's Jeff Livesay, and he's in business here in Blackburn. He is also, his father is living. His father is 68. He's 39 years or 40 years old, I guess. And it was just delightful for him to call me and come by and want to meet us.
Did I hear that he might come to the United States?
Yes, he
next
said
year?
that he might, and we hope that he will, don't we?
Oh, yes, we do. And I wish we could have Dick Livesay and Tom Livesay and Elson, young Tom and Ann all over so that the folks over there could meet them.
They must come.
Either that or we must get the others over here. Now,
That's right.
This is a pretty special place.
Well, I think they would enjoy attending our reunion, too.
Well, the experiences here have just been so beautiful, and the people have been so warm and so friendly. Margaret and Eddie and all of the people we've met. The Beardsworths.
Margaret and Eddie, of course, Margaret was a tour guide, and Eddie was our driver, the coach, that we traveled, 1,000 miles in or so?
No telling.
No telling how far, but he's a good driver when he drives on the wrong side of the road all the time.
All the time, and can manage through the tight places.
Yeah, that's right. Sue, it's been wonderful, this trip to all of us, and I know that you're looking forward to the trip home, but to rest up from 2 weeks.
Sort of.
Isn't that right?
Right. Then back to work.
Yeah.
Back to the old ordinary after these 2 weeks taken out of time. Really, they're almost 2 weeks out of time.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful, though?
It is.
And thank you for talking with us about your trip, and have a good trip home. We have with us here a couple from Ohio, and we've been talking to about everyone from Tennessee, it seems. So we're glad to have a break here and talk to some people from Ohio. It's Colonel and Mrs. William E. Livesay of Fairburn, Ohio. Colonel William was in the Air Force. He's probably been to Great Britain before, haven't you?
No, I've missed Great Britain, been all through Europe, but never got into Great Britain. This is a treat to be here.
Just couldn't get across the channel, could you?
Couldn't get across.
Yeah, Judah, how are you tonight?
I'm fine.
Have you enjoyed the 2 weeks over here?
Oh, yes.
What are some of your impressions of England and Great Britain?
Well, I think that it's one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been in. And since we've been here in Lancashire, I've just been really impressed with the warmth and friendliness of the people. I just can't believe it.
They treat us real nice, even though we won our independence from them in the Revolutionary War, don't they? I believe they've forgiven us for that, don't you?
They don't seem to hold it against us. I second what Judah has said about the country, the whole country as far as the hills, the sheep, the whole weather condition has just been absolutely fabulous. It's far beyond what we would expect on something like this. The people as a whole, not counting the Livesays here at all, have treated us nice. We've been respected and so forth. The Livesays have beyond our greatest expectations. And the official welcome from the mayor of Blackburn and her attendance at the banquet tonight was icing on the cake.
It sure was, wasn't it? And William, you know, the impression we get of our Livesay cousins that we hadn't had the privilege of meeting before is great. It seems like they're just one of us, and there's just an ocean between us, but it isn't very wide whenever you realize the warmth that they have extended us and their hospitality on this trip. Isn't that true?
That is 100% true, Ray.
Well, we want to thank you for chatting with us and for making the trip, and you have a good flight home and enjoyable memories of this
I
trip.
would like to add one little thing, Ray.
Okay.
Anybody who says that English cooking is just plain and dull just doesn't know what they're talking about.
I think Willie and I have got to go home and eat some ice and lose a little weight, haven't we?
We're going to plug up our new pipes.
Yeah, that's right. If we don't, we'll plug up those new pipes of ours. You betcha. Well, thank you, Colonel William and Judah Livesay of Fairburn, Ohio, for chatting with us here tonight. I guess all the rest of us are next. Well, you know, we come over to England and they drive on the wrong side of the road. That means, of course, they drive on the left side where we drive on the right side. And, of course, being from America, we say it's wrong, and, of course, they say we're wrong. But I want you to meet one of the greatest drivers that I have ever ridden with. I see him going down the road driving on the left side, and he sits on the right side of the bus and drives it. And it seems kind of odd. Look and see all those cars. The driver's sitting on the wrong side of the car. It looks like they're going along without a driver. But this is the greatest driver in England. This is Eddie Meese. Eddie, how are you?
Pleased to meet you.
Are you going to be the same after meeting this bunch of Livesays?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Well, listen, Eddie, how long have you been driving coaches?
Been driving coaches 10 years.
10 years?
10 years, yes.
And do you get very many bunches like us?
Not many, no.
Not many, huh?
No. Each individual coach trip has all the spice of its own, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And each group from America, they're about the same in some respects and different in others.
I don't know. It's my first one.
Oh, it's your first American bunch?
That's right.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yes, the first American bunch.
Now, you live, what, about 40 miles west of here?
No, 60.
60 miles?
60 miles.
You live way out on the coast, don't you?
That's right.
And do you get home very often?
Not often, no. Not often at all.
The coach company keeps you busy, don't they?
Certainly do.
Yeah, well, what's the most difficult thing? Have you ever accident?
Well, last year I was over taking an Arctic in third lane, and I was travelling 75 miles and I had front wheel blow out.
The front wheel blew out?
Front wheel blew out.
Well, that could be a problem, couldn't it?
Well, it could have been if I hadn't held it, but I held it.
Oh, good.
And all the people congratulated me.
Well, we congratulate you.
I shouldn't have been driving.
We congratulate you on this 1,000 miles or more that you've taken us. Isn't it about 1,000 or so?
Yes, more.
And we've certainly enjoyed it. You've given us a beautiful ride over a lot of Great Britain and just made the trip wonderful.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it immensely.
We want to thank you, and we want to officially invite you to come and see us in America.
I'd love to.
We want you to do that. Is that a promise?
If I can possibly make it, I will.
Okay.
It's a promise.
You make a promise and you come see us.
Right, will do.
And I'll let you fly my airplane. Okay?
I like that, very much.
You can fly it as good as you drive that bus?
I've got more open space.
Yeah, more space, that's right. Well, thank you, Eddie, and for helping to make it a wonderful trip.
I'm doing this under duress.
Yes, okay. You ready?
Oh, dear.
Well, Margaret Hodgins, this has been a great trip for all the Livesay Heritage Group that came over. There were 16 of us, and you did us real proud. We appreciate so much all the wonderful things you did to make our trip. The little extra things counted so much.
Well, it has been my privilege. It really has to have known all of you. I know more now about the Livesays than I know about the Hodkinsons.
You do?
I know far more about the Livesays, and I feel that I'm part of the Livesays. I would like to be part of the Livesays, please. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I'm the only guide in England that does a transfer onto a tractor.
Yeah.
Nobody else has done that ever in England.
With a hayride, we call them.
We're having a hayride.
Yeah.
So I've thoroughly, really thoroughly enjoyed all your company.
Well, you did so many things to make our trip so enjoyable. 2 weeks, you know, is not a long time. It went by so fast because you had just about every minute, every hour pretty well planned. And,
as you know, last night I was speechless.
I know you
just
were.
about getting my voice back.
And then the banquet dinner last night was just out of this world.
It was. Well, every day's been out of this world. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been
we
great.
all are
It
leaving
really has.
with a bit of nostalgia, and we hope that you will come over to America and visit with us.
Thank
Will
you. Yes, I'd love
That's
to
a
do
promise.
that. And if you all promise to come back and see me also.
We'll do that.
Afternoon tea, English fashion.
You bet.
Be lovely.
Thank you, Margaret
Thank
Hodgins,
you.
our guide on this wonderful trip that we've had here in England and to the roots of the Livesay family in the Blackburn, Preston, Lancashire area. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's all right, come on. Well, we're at the Manchester Airport in Manchester, England, and it's a long ways from our home in Illinois. When I say our home, we have with us here Melvin and Doris Crone from Irvington, Illinois, near Centralia. And you are Livesay, I believe.
That's right. My maiden name was Livesay. My grandfather was William Thomas Livesay, near Washington County in Illinois.
And that's the group that came from Virginia down to Maury County, Tennessee, and then about 1830-33 moved on over to Washington County, and then you were the descendants of that group.
That's right. That's my
That was the Robert Carter that married the Livesay girl. the daughter of our Thomas, and also a Carter lady married, I believe, John Livesay.
Yes.
Is that about right?
That's about right.
Good. Melvin, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
How have you enjoyed the trip?
I've enjoyed it very much. It's been a fine trip. I wouldn't have missed it for anything.
Is this your first trip to England?
Yes.
Well, this was a real good one, and you had a dandy tour.
Had a dandy, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, did you learn much about the Livesays over here?
I sure did, but we just did not have enough time to do all we wanted to when we reached this area.
How did you enjoy meeting the Livesay cousins that we met over here?
That was the best.
Weren't they wonderful people?
Oh, Tom and his wife, they were just very gracious to us.
And you got to help do some research with us, too.
I sure did. The old skins, the manuscripts that they were put onto, fascinating. The types of writing they used back, very interesting. Spent one whole day, wanted to go back, would like to spend a whole week in their libraries here.
Well, you were reading things that were over 250 years old. They were written that long ago.
Yes, and they were on
parchment paper.
Animal skin paper.
Yes, that's right.
A little different than what we've seen in the States.
And it's as well preserved.
Very much so.
Well, thank you very much, Melvin and Doris Crone from Irvington, Illinois. We've certainly enjoyed having you with the tour, and we look forward to seeing you at our next reunion.
Sure, we'll be there, and hopefully another tour will be in mind.
You bet. Well, thank you. And so now we are airborne and heading out from the airport in Manchester, England, to head across the sea and back home to the USA. And this is our takeoff to come home on Saturday, heading back to the United States of America non-stop from Manchester, England on American Airlines, a Boeing 767. And here we are above the clouds as we float back, and of all the times, about 6 times, that I've been over the Atlantic between Great Britain and the United States, this was the first time that I was able to see Greenland as we take the Great Circle route and come right over the southern tip of Greenland. Usually we passed by there either at night or it was cloudy and would not have the opportunity to see it. But this time we did have that opportunity. We also could see some icebergs down below too. And there you can see the southern tip of Greenland. You see the land area and water, and some of those little white specks are actually icebergs. And just about 20 or 30 minutes ago, we passed over the south tip of Greenland, and a very unusual view of Greenland, because I've been this way, 6 times in the last several years and never have been able to see Greenland before, because usually it's at night or else there's a cloud cover and you don't get an opportunity to see it. So we had a real choice, and that's what you viewed on the videotape just a few moments ago. So that was a real opportunity. We haven't had an opportunity yet to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Don McCarthy of Media, Pennsylvania, and we're on our way home to Chicago and to our respective homes in the United States. Don, did you enjoy the trip?
Very much so.
What was your impressions of the Livesay clan in England?
I realized that they were farm people. I come from a farm background, and I was glad to see a similar group of people that I had seen in Nebraska. Different nationalities, but because there I saw mostly Germans.
So our kith and kin are pretty nice people over there,
right? They are.
They are our English cousins, aren't they?
Right.
Well, your wife is the Livesay, and you're the chosen one, I understand.
That's right.
Betty, what were your impressions of your cousins in England?
Loved them. I wanted to hug them all.
Well, tell me about your impressions of the trip.
Oh, it was very nice, our first trip, but I doubt that we could ever have another one quite like it.
Ready to go back again, aren't you?
A week at home, maybe.
Go home and get rested up, huh? Yes. And you folks have lived in Tuscola, Illinois, which is close to where I live in Mattoon, Illinois. But we didn't get acquainted while you were there, and we had to wait until now to get acquainted, didn't we?
I probably heard you on the radio because I did listen, but I didn't meet you personally.
I see. Well, thanks a lot, and we certainly enjoyed chatting with you, and we hope you have a good trip home from Chicago back to Media. You'll have a flight, and the fellow and I are going to get in the car and drive home. Our car is waiting for us in Chicago.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Well, we have the opportunity to sit down here for a moment and talk with Nell Green from Snatesville, Tennessee. Nell, we've had a great trip, haven't we?
It certainly has been.
You look like you're relaxing and enjoying yourself.
Trying to get my feet above my head.
To think of that opportunity we had of seeing Greenland as we came by.
Oh, it was lovely.
You know, I've been by on this roundabout. This is the sixth time, and this is the only time I've had an opportunity to see Greenland.
I haven't seen it before either. Of course, I've only been this way once.
Yeah, you've passed here too.
But the other trips I came from.
It's usually in darkness, or else it's covered with clouds, isn't it?
Clouds.
Nell, you've been active, of course, as an officer of the LHS for many years, and I just wonder what your impressions were of our visit to the Livesay clan in England.
Well, the main thing is how hospitable and how loving they were, and how they went out of their way to help us and search things that we wanted.
We visited some beautiful churches, didn't we?
They were lovely, but the thing that impressed me most was the countryside and the people.
And you know, they must have loved Virginia because that's where Thomas settled. And isn't it wonderful that I was able to find in that book, and of course I had to let out a war whoop because how delighted and tickled I was for all of us that we found Margaret's last name, Stones, and we found, we are quite sure, the father and mother of Thomas, and possibly also John Livesay, who was his father. That would be our Thomas, his grandfather.
The only thing I regret about it is Jim and Mary Lee not being with us.
A real thrill, wasn't it?
Get to talk to them and tell them was the thrill, but not having them with us has made all a little bit.
I just wish Jackson and Jim could have been with us to gotten the thrill that we did whenever we discovered it.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
But we'll have a great time and telling them all about it.
Won't this meeting that we have coming up in July be a great one at Gettysburg?
Oh, yes, and I hope some of our cousins come there.
We should have 200 there because we're going to show these video pictures that we've taken and tried to share with our cousins in America the thrill that we had in visiting with our cousins in England, aren't we?
Yes, that'll be a great day.
Well, thank you, Nell Green. Have a good trip home, and I see that you're very comfortable, and we won't disturb you anymore. Okay? Thank you.
All right, LaFell. I want to get you for this.
She says she'll get you for this, LaFell. Well, we now have the opportunity to talk, I think, one of the most important people in our whole organization, and this is Virginia Smith, who edits and gets out about 500 newsletters 4 times a year. And if you don't believe that's a job, you just try to do it sometime. And our organization is eternally grateful to Virginia Smith for this tremendous job she does on that. Virginia, we want to thank you for being one of the tour members here with us, 16 of us, and
Jim and Mary Lee, her illness prevented them from coming. They would have been 18. What are your impressions of your English cousins?
Delightful, delightful. I've had a delightful visit. I've enjoyed their company. I've enjoyed the companionship of the members who went on the tour. And I'm looking forward to doing it again sometime with more members of our group. So that
We hope we'll have about 200 there this year,
wouldn't that be
so that we can share through our videotape and the slides that Luther and Willie took. We can share with them the joy and the pleasure of this trip, because it's been wonderful.
It has, and there just isn't any words to properly describe what we experienced. We have to tell it in person.
And you know, Tom Livesay and Dick Livesay and John over there,
Oh, they were so
all of them,
delightful.
weren't they hospitable?
Oh, so delightful. They just...
And even the mayor of Blackburn's a quite a large city, you know.
Yes.
And even she devoted a lot of time to us.
Yes.
We've talked to all of our people except my chosen one. And here's LaFell Livesay to give us her comments and remarks about our tour, the Livesay Heritage Tour of England.
Every minute of it, and this has really been a first-class tour. We had fine hotels, excellent food, and good service. This was the first time to England for the most of our group, and the family certainly did enjoy the sightseeing. We toured all of England and all of Scotland, and such beautiful countryside I've never seen. But I know that you were very anxious to get back down to the Blackburn-Preston area, which has been the ancestral home of the Livesays for hundreds of years, so that you could get at the family research. And it was just wonderful to go into the archives there and get into the records. And of course, it was under high security, but I know that you told the first man at the desk where we had to sign in about the time period that you were interested in. And I know, Ray, for some time you have been interested in finding out information about what the family calls the first Thomas that came to the United States, and information about him, when he married, and his wife Margaret's maiden name. And so after these old volumes were brought to you, and the parchment paper that they were written on in beautiful handwriting, and it seems to me, if I recall correctly, for about an hour you had been scanning down the pages, and it was quiet in there, and I was sitting down at the end of the table, and all at once you let out a big yell to the rest of us, "Come see what I have found."
Well, I was just so thrilled, LaFell, because for how many years have we looked for Margaret's maiden name, and just when she and Thomas were married.
And the beam of excitement on your face was something to see, and all the rest of us became quite excited also. So,
well, you know, the 21st of May, 1749 was back 30 years ago almost.
So finally, the whole trip, you had got to the heart of the matter for which you had made the trip. And I know those last few days you'd had sightseeing up to here, and you were getting to the point of frustration because you were anxious to get to those archives.
I was so anxious to do research, and we got only 2 days in, and I can't help but think of all the wonderful things we could have gotten if we could have had, say, 4, 5, or 6 days of actual research.
But the sightseeing was wonderful, and we flew into Manchester, and we went way down to London and stopped along the way, saw the country, and then after some days, you know, we went clear up to Edinburgh, which was about 400 miles, wasn't it?
That's right. Long ways.
And we went from the North Sea on one coast to the Irish Sea on the other, and it's beautiful, beautiful country, and we saw so many things, and the family that was along in the party did enjoy it, and I did too. I enjoyed the sightseeing very much.
We also realize how much more research there is left to be done.
Well, you'll just have to go back and spend your entire time there.
And let's get Jackson Jim on it too.
Well, he would enjoy it, I'm sure.
That's sure.
And it was just a wonderful trip, and we had nice sunny weather, as all the family members will recall, and the people in England just couldn't believe that the sunshine followed us for 2 solid days.
Boy, is it ever good to get home.
Man. Oh, boy. It's good to be home with all this load and get our luggage in, get unpacked and everything. Guys, it was nice of Jim to get back. And we hope that we represented our Livesay Historical Society in a nice way with our Livesay cousins in England. And this is the group that we might say saw us off from Knoxville, Tennessee at the meeting in 1987. It was just about a month after this picture was taken that we left. And we were happy to obtain this picture of Sir Michael Livesay, who was born in 1611, lived to be about 50 some odd years. He signed the death warrant for King Charles II, which got him into trouble, and they took his wealth, and he had to escape to Holland to save his life. He was the 5th signer of the death warrant, and we have a copy now of that death warrant. Here it is right here. And on the left, there's one, and right over 4 down, then over there is Michael Livesay's signature of King Charles I's death warrant. What a thrill it was to be on the grounds of our ancestors in England and to get in touch with the nostalgia of genealogy and of history. It's really something to behold.